Hi, my name is Levi, and I built the Crystal Portal. This is the Crystal Portal podcast, where we talk about crystals, Moldavite, spirit guides, sacred geometry, intuition, quantum energy, and all things metaphysical. Find something special for your spiritual journey. Shop online at moldavitejewelry.com to support my work. Welcome to episode 14 of the podcast. So today we're going to be taking a closer look at the crown. Where to begin? All right, let's take a look at the minerals at the center there that follows a geometric pattern of the golden ratio. If you remember, back in episode 7 of the podcast, we were looking at the sacred geometry that's in the crystal portal. The golden ratio design is in the beading section. It's also across the bridge platform and up here at the crown. It's like a visual roller coaster ride here. All right, so let's zoom in and take a look at these here. There are very tiny crystals set in sterling silver, and these are Brazilian Phenakites. So there are 45 Brazilian Phenakite crystals across the top. And those are meant to do two different things. One, it's kind of a visual aspect, meaning it draws the eye toward the center of the crystal portal. So as someone is walking through, they'll be unconsciously drawn toward the center of the crystal portal as opposed to one side or the other. There's symmetry. Another aspect is if someone is really tall, then this gives them an indicator that, hey, you're really close to the top. Okay, the other part, energetic-wise, Phenakite is excellent for clearing the aura. It's said to instantly cleanse the aura. So when I was meditating early on, I remember the guides said, I was asking about how much Phenakite to add, and they said a lot. So there was an emphasis there. So if you noticed, again, on the episodes, you're going to see a lot of Phenakite in all sections of the crystal portal. And if you look closer on the sides, so both the left side and the right, there are angel chimes. So we've got Bezadinisa, actually pronounced Pisa, Bezadinisa Moldavite, Libyan Desert Glass, and fulgurite. So fulgurite is an excellent stone for manifestation, generating that which you want to receive. Moldavite, the stone of transformation, and Libyan Desert Glass. The angel chimes were made with silk string tied around each of the individual angel chimes and then attached them to 14K gold-filled chain. And then in order to make this work where you could safely add them and remove them later on, I used these right here. It's the clasp of a necklace. So as the crystal portal needs to be disassembled and reassembled for a new location at some point, that will make it easy to do. Here's something interesting about the crown. So as someone approaches the crystal portal, there are a small group of minerals up here that act like, in electronics, reference would be like an integrated circuit, meaning the energies synergetically work together to begin to activate the third eye crown chakras. And when I was in high school, I was fascinated by electronics. So that was the best analogy that kind of kept coming to mind, is how these, best way to describe how the minerals are working together energetically. So if you look here at the top, that one, there, and at the very center is a mineral called ankerite. It's incredibly activating for the third eye. It acts like a vortex. So activating for the third eye, I would imagine the crown also. And if you'll notice, they're at a 45-degree angle, meaning this one here is across the top. These two down here at the other angle, and then this at the center point. So again, it's not at the top, it's not below. It creates a 45-degree angle that more or less focuses the energy toward the third eye as someone approaches the crystal portal crossing point. And if you've been following along on the podcast, if you recall back in episode 9, we talked about pezzotaite and how that also had vortex energy. So you can't see it, but underneath each of the ankerite crystals, I've added a pezzotaite crystal. So you've got the vortex energy. So if you look at the center here, there's Erdchek 002 meteorite. Let me see if I can zoom in. There we go. All right, so the three small things there on the layer around the center ankerite crystal, those are Erdchek 002 meteorites. And again, if you recall in the previous episode, I talked about how I've dubbed it the sorting hat meteorite because it seems to show each person what it is that they need to move forward in life. And then underneath each of the three Erdchek 002 meteorites, there are Tatooine meteorite. Tatooine, again, it's like a connective energy. If you recall, a number of other episodes, I've talked about Tatooine meteorites being in various sections of the crystal portal. Immediately surrounding the meteorites are these three right here. This is golden Herderite from Brazil. These are three tiny little clusters. Herderite is incredibly activating for the third eye, crown, and light body. I've worked with Herderite for quite a while, and it's got some really good activating energy to it. And if you notice across the top, just above that, this is azurite. Azurite, another really good third eye stone. The very underside of this little mini integrated circuit is fluorite included quartz right there. Underneath the fluorite included quartz is Tatooine meteorite and Erdchek 002 meteorite. If you want to learn more about fluorite included quartz, check out episode 10. We explored the span section with the fluorite included quartz that was added at the top right there. All the way across the top, right there, are two main minerals. One is Anandalite. Again, if you want to learn more about that, check out the episode where we talked about this section right here. And Pollucite. When I was asking my guides how the Anandalite worked energetically, the visual that they showed was nozzles, like if you were in a car wash, the spray nozzles that more or less began to clear and activate the aura as someone approached the crystal portal. And that is, again, the whole reason that the Anandalite points are all facing forward, so that when someone approaches the portal, it begins to, again, give them an energetic car wash. Last episode, we were looking at the gate section. If you remember that clear mineral, Pollucite. Pollucite, along with Anandalite and selenite, is all the way across the top. So if you look closer, you'll see the individual Anandalite points. And these tiny ones right here are small pieces of Pollucite. When I'd asked the guides how the energy was working, the visual that I got was almost like if somebody had taken a light and put it all the way across the top. It had this blanket of light that went straight down. So the visual was that of kind of activating and clearing as someone approached the center of the crystal portal. The other mineral that's in here with the Anandalite, Pollucite, and selenite is Herderite. So if you look really close, you'll see there are 18 green Herderite crystals intermittently placed along the very top here. There's also a little bit more of the golden Herderite from Brazil. If you'll notice, there is a pattern right there of golden Herderite little crystals. And there's geometry within geometry, because if you trace the line down, they focus right there, but also there is kind of an unseen geometric triangle of sorts that draws to the center up top there. Let's take a break from the center section here and look back at the ends, either side of the ends. Above the angel chimes, what I forgot to mention was these minerals right here. This is danburite from Mexico. Danburite, again, it's another angelic stone, so it seemed quite appropriate to go with the angel chimes, which leads us back to the center stones right here. If you'll notice, again, following with the pattern of 3, 6, and 9, we've got 9mm faceted danburite, again from Mexico, 6mm phenakite, and 3mm pedolite. So 3, 6, and 9mm gems set in 14 karat gold all around the center point there, which is Moldavite. And see the other faceted stones, these three right here are Alexandrite. And Alexandrite natural stone is there, and on the far end over here. If it looks like each of the Moldavites are lit up, you're not seeing things. Yes, they are. So when I was adding them to the crown section, I actually carved out all the way through the board itself in order to be able to add light behind them. So if the lights were dim or if there's some kind of a special event, they would really stand out and look really nice in different lighting. Around each of the individual Moldavite tektites, with the exception of the centerpiece, are small pieces of gold. I'd hammered small gold nuggets around each of the Moldavites to go in line with the individual points that are within the golden ratio, the outside of each of the center spheres, the circles there. Now, around each of the circles of gold nuggets, there are Tatooine meteorite. The Tatooine meteorite, again, follows the same pattern, same proportion around each of those. Between each of the Moldavite tektites is one called Benitoite tektite from Texas. The exception are the two in the center here. So Benitoite tektite, it's got this multi-dimensional energy to it. And most people aren't even aware of the Benitoite tektite because it's so obscure and hard to find. So I've added small ones here between the Moldavites. Again, the exception is the centerpiece. The stones on either side of the centerpiece of Moldavite is Ergchek 002 meteorite. There's also a third one up here at the top. So these three are lined up in a perfect triangle that runs right through the center of Moldavite right here. And if you'll notice, there's also the geometry is lined up with the ones down here. Sacred geometry all over the crystal portal. The three crystals at the top surrounding the Ergchek 002 meteorite are etched Nigerian Phenakite. You see that flash? Those are the natural etchings on the surface of the crystals. Right below that is what's called a bridge crystal. The bridge crystal has been set into the wood of this piece here, and then behind it is a small mirror. Now, what makes this so unique is that in the 9 years that I've been in crystals, minerals, I've only seen 2 bridge crystals like this. This is an example of what you would typically find as a bridge crystal. Usually, it's a small crystal which penetrates, is located partially in, partially out of a larger crystal. Yes, seen these, but I have only twice in 9 years seen a crystal that ran all the way through the other crystal. So we're reading from Melody's book, Love is in the Earth, about the bridge crystal. She writes, it facilitates bridging between inner and outer worlds, between the self and others residing on this planet, and between the self and other worlds. The crystal assists one in expressing that which one experiences when one is becoming more familiar with the self. It is quite beneficial when one is working with the aspects of spirituality and with the advanced metaphysical areas and attempting to share this knowledge with others, kind of like the podcast. For anyone into numerology, the bridge crystal vibrates to the master number 66, bridge quartz, to the number 2, bridge quartz crystal, and the number 7, bridge crystal. Now you can appreciate why this is so unique and so rare. The crystal at the center of it crosses completely through the main crystal. There's a mirror behind it as well. Consider this a bridge crystal of bridge crystals. Spanning all the way across the top, kind of a wave, a gentle wave, is Benitoite from San Benito, California. There are 44 Benitoite crystals embedded into the top around there. Looking at the very, very top, these are Natrolite crystals from San Benito, California. In the Book of Stones, he writes this about Natrolite. The keywords are visionary experience, quantum leap to higher consciousness, brain evolutions, and ET connections. The element associated with Natrolite is storm. The chakras are the third eye, crown, and etheric, which are the 8th through 14th above the head. Natrolite provides psychic protection, making it impossible for negative entities or influences to penetrate one's auric field. It is also an ascension stone. It's one of the Synergy 12 stones for activating the light body. Naisha writes, Natrolite's storm element energy can activate any of the chakras in the body, though its energy is focused primarily on psychic and spiritual activation. Its energy strongly opens the third eye, crown, and etheric chakras to create a powerful flow of intuitive information, psychic vision, and communication with spiritual beings. This was the reason that Natrolite was placed under here and there at the top, because as someone walks through the crystal portal, it activates the chakras that are in the unseen above the head, which is the exact placement up here. Between each of the Natrolite crystals are Burmese Phenakites. So there's one on either side, here and here, and then individual points placed between the Natrolite crystals, as well as one right here at the very, very front top. Runs right in parallel with the Natrolite. The taller one's the Natrolite, the shorter one is the Burmese Phenakite. Wondering about the angels? Well, there are a couple of things here with the angels. Number one, there are a number of angelic stones. This is danburite, pedalite, we've got angel chimes, and Archangel Metatron, pedolite, stone of the angels, as well as in the crystal grid section, which we'll get into in a future episode, there are a lot of angelic stones. And that is, again, representation of the energy surrounding the protection of the crystal portal. We all have guardian angels. We can call on our angels at any time. Again, this is a representation of the energy, the angelic realm that I wanted to incorporate into the crystal portal. Another aspect to this is symbolic, meaning I understand the responsibility that is in creating something like this. If you've been following along the podcast, no doubt you know a little bit about the minerals. There's a lot of energy here. As you can see, there are a lot of crystals in the portal, hence the name of the series. Join us next time as we explore the crystals that make up the crystal grid around the portal itself. If you would like to experience the crystal portal for yourself, we'll be launching the portal on the 999 portal this next month in September. Make sure you're signed up on the email list at moldavitejewelry.com to be the first to know. As always, I really appreciate you tuning in because it's not the easiest thing to be standing behind the camera when you're not actually talking to a person. So hopefully I'm getting better at this, connecting with you all, even though you're on the other side of a screen. If you're enjoying this, please share this with a friend. It really helps the podcast to grow. You could like, subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment. You've got a question? I've got answers. Let's connect. Drop me a comment so I can answer any of the questions you have about the crystal portal. And if you're new to this, check out some of the older episodes, exploring all of the various sections of the crystal portal itself. Make sure you're signed up on the email list. Email subscribers will be notified first of any exclusives, info, and extraordinary events coming up for the crystal portal itself. Until next time, tune into your intuition. You are the key. Align the universe within to illuminate your destiny.